The outpost's sensors blared an urgent warning. Multiple unidentified vessels had appeared on the edge of their radar. The Harkonnens. Ela's heart raced as she quickly ordered her team to battle stations. The Harkonnens were known for their ruthless tactics and overwhelming firepower. The Cerulean defenses were formidable, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. The first salvo of Harkonnen fire hit the outpost with devastating force. Explosions rocked the facility, sending debris flying in all directions. The Cerulean fighters scrambled to retaliate, but the Harkonnen ships were relentless, cutting through their defenses with precision. Ela fought to maintain control, barking orders and coordinating defenses amidst the chaos. But it was a losing battle. The Harkonnen ships breached the outpost shields, and the command center shook violently. Alarms wailed, and the lights flickered as systems failed one by one. In the midst of the destruction, Ela made a desperate decision. She activated the outpost's emergency beacon, transmitting a distress signal on all frequencies. Her voice, filled with urgency and determination, called out into the void. "This is Commander Ela of the Cerulean outpost. We are under heavy attack by Harkonnen forces. Any assistance would be greatly appreciated." With the distress signal sent, Ela continued to fight, but the outpost's defenses crumbled under the relentless assault. The Harkonnens showed no mercy, destroying everything in their path. Ela's team was decimated, and she herself was injured by a blast that tore through the command center. Aboard the human starship Ulysses, Lieutenant Marcus Reed sat at his console, monitoring the ship's communication systems. It was a routine patrol through a quiet sector, and he didn't expect anything out of the ordinary. The crew of the Ulysses was experienced, having faced numerous challenges on their deep space missions, but today seemed like just another day. Suddenly, Reed's console lit up with an incoming signal. His curiosity piqued. He quickly analyzed the transmission. It was a distress call, faint but urgent, coming from an uncharted region of space. Reed's brow furrowed as he listened to the message. "This is Commander Ela of the Cerulean outpost. We are under heavy attack by Harkonnen forces. Any assistance would be greatly appreciated." Reed immediately alerted Captain Nora Hayes, who was in the ship's command center. Captain Hayes was a seasoned leader, known for her strategic mind and unyielding resolve. She reviewed the distress signal, her eyes narrowing as she considered the implications. "The Cerulean system," she mused. "It's known for its conflicts, but we've never had direct contact with them before. This could be risky." Reed nodded. "Yes, Captain. But if the Harkonnens are involved, it could mean serious trouble. The Ceruleans need help, and we're the closest ship." Captain Hayes weighed the options. Intervening in an alien conflict could have far-reaching consequences, but humanity had always valued its role as a protector in the galaxy. She made her decision. "Set a course for the Cerulean system. We'll investigate and see what we can do." The Ulysses engines roared to life as the ship changed course, heading towards the source of the distress signal. The crew prepared for the unknown, readying their weapons and defenses. The journey was tense, with everyone on high alert, knowing they were heading into a potentially volatile situation. As they neared the Cerulean outpost, the devastation became clear. The once proud facility was in ruins, with wreckage scattered across the landscape. The Ulysses cautiously approached, scanning for any remaining threats. Reed's console buzzed with updates confirming the Harkonnen presence had retreated, at least for now. The Ulysses landing party, led by Captain Hayes and Lieutenant Reed, descended to the surface. They found Commander Ela amidst the rubble, injured but alive. Her eyes widened in surprise and relief as she saw the humans. "You heard my call," she whispered, her voice weak but grateful. Captain Hayes extended a hand. "We're here to help. Let's get you to safety and see what we can do to assist." The humans worked quickly, providing medical aid to the wounded Ceruleans and assessing the situation. As they began to rebuild and repair, the seeds of an unlikely alliance were sown. The humans and Ceruleans, two very different species, found themselves united by a common enemy and a shared determination to survive. The Ulysses medical team worked swiftly to stabilize Commander Ela. The once vibrant Cerulean leader now lay on a stretcher, her greenish skin pale and eyes dim with exhaustion. She watched as the humans moved with practiced efficiency, a mixture of curiosity and skepticism etched on her face. "Commander Ela," Captain Hayes said, kneeling beside her, "we're here to help. Can you tell us what happened?" Ela took a deep breath, her voice shaky but resolute. "The Harkonnens launched a surprise attack. We were overwhelmed. They came out of nowhere." Captain Hayes nodded. "We're going to do everything we can to assist you. For now, let's get you and your people to safety." The Ulysses's crew helped the surviving Ceruleans aboard the ship, treating their injuries and providing much-needed sustenance. Despite their initial mistrust, the Ceruleans gradually warmed to their human saviors. The shared experience of loss and survival began to bridge the gap between their species. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Reed worked with the Ulysses's engineers to assess the damage to the Cerulean outpost. The Harkonnens had left little standing, but Reed's team was determined to salvage what they could. As they sifted through the wreckage, they discovered fragments of Harkonnen technology, providing crucial insights into the enemy's tactics. Back on the ship, Captain Hayes and her officers held a strategy meeting with Commander Ela. The Cerulean leader, now more stable, sat upright, her eyes filled with a renewed determination. "We need to know more about the Harkonnens," Captain Hayes began. "What are their capabilities? What do they want?" Ela sighed. "The Harkonnens are ruthless. They seek to expand their territory at any cost, and they've been targeting weaker outposts like ours to weaken our defenses. Their ships are heavily armed, and their soldiers show no mercy." Lieutenant Reed shared his findings from the wreckage. "We've recovered some of their technology. It appears they have advanced cloaking capabilities, which explains the surprise attack." Captain Hayes leaned forward, her mind racing with possibilities. "We need to find a way to counter their cloaking and strengthen your defenses. We'll work together to develop new strategies and technologies." Isla's skepticism began to fade. She saw the determination in the human's eyes, a reflection of her own resolve to protect her people. "Very well. We will share what we know about the Harkonnens. Together, we might stand a chance." As the days passed, the humans and Ceruleans worked tirelessly to rebuild the outpost and prepare for the inevitable return of the Harkonnens. Commander Ela and Lieutenant Reed formed a close partnership, their combined knowledge and skills proving invaluable in the effort. One evening, while examining the Harkonnen technology in the Ulysses lab, Reed made a startling discovery. "Ela, take a look at this," he called out. Ela joined him, her eyes narrowing as she studied the holographic display. "What is it?" she asked. Reed pointed to a series of intricate circuits and alien symbols. "These markings indicate a command structure. It appears the Harkonnen ships are coordinated by a central command unit. If we can disrupt this unit, we could cripple their entire fleet." Ela's eyes widened with realization. This could be the key to turning the tide of the war, but how do we find and disable it? Captain Hayes entered the lab, having overheard their conversation. "We'll need to launch a reconnaissance mission. Identify the location of this command unit and gather as much intelligence as possible. It will be dangerous, but it might be our only chance." The Ulysses crew and Cerulean forces prepared for the mission, their determination bolstered by the possibility of a breakthrough. As they readied their ships, Ela shared more about the Cerulean struggle. "We've been fighting the Harkonnens for years. They've decimated our colonies, driven us to the brink of extinction, but now, with your help, we have a glimmer of hope." Captain Hayes placed a reassuring hand on Ela's shoulder. "We won't let them win. We'll fight alongside you until the end." The reconnaissance mission launched under the cover of darkness, the Ulysses and a fleet of Cerulean ships navigating the treacherous space towards Harkonnen territory. The journey was fraught with tension, every shadow a potential threat. Upon reaching the outskirts of Harkonnen space, the Allied fleet activated their own cloaking devices, a recent technological advancement shared by the Ceruleans. They moved stealthily, avoiding detection as they scanned for the command unit. After hours of tense searching, they found it. A heavily fortified station, bristling with weaponry, and guarded by a formidable fleet. Reed transmitted the data back to the Ulysses, his voice calm but urgent. "We've located the command unit. It's heavily protected, but we have a plan." Captain Hayes and Isla devised a bold strategy to infiltrate the station. A small elite team would slip through the defenses, plant explosives, and disable the command unit. It was a high-risk operation, but the potential reward was too great to ignore. As the team prepared to launch, Isla looked at her human allies, a newfound respect in her eyes. For too long, we've fought this war alone. But now, with you by our side, I believe we can finally change our fate. Captain Hayes nodded, her resolve unwavering. We'll do this together, for humanity and for the Ceruleans. The team launched, navigating through the defenses with precision and skill. They breached the station's perimeter, their movements swift and silent. As they planted the explosives, Reed hacked into the Harkonnen systems, gathering vital intelligence and ensuring the success of their mission. With the explosives set and the data secured, the team made their escape, detonating the charges as they fled. The station erupted in a massive explosion, the shockwave reverberating through space. The Harkonnen fleet, now leaderless and disoriented, began to fall apart. Captain Hayes gathered her senior officers in the Ulysses Command Center. The room was filled with tension as they reviewed the latest intelligence reports. Lieutenant Reed stood by, ready to present his findings from the reconnaissance mission. "We've crippled the Harkonnen command structure," Reed began, "but this is only a temporary setback for them. They will regroup, and when they do, they'll come back stronger. We need a long-term strategy." Commander Isla, who had been invited to the meeting, spoke up. "Our defenses are still weak. If we stand alone, we won't survive the next attack. We need to strike at the heart of their operation, take the fight to them." Captain Hayes nodded thoughtfully. "You're right, but intervening in this war means committing ourselves fully. It could escalate, drawing humanity into a prolonged conflict. Are we prepared for that?" The officers exchanged glances, the weight of the decision heavy on their minds. Lieutenant Commander Simmons, the ship's tactical officer, spoke with conviction. "Captain, we've seen what the Harkonnens are capable of. If we don't stop them now, they'll continue to spread their terror across the galaxy. This isn't just about the Ceruleans anymore. It's about preventing a greater threat." Dr. Elena Torres, the ship's medical officer, added, "We've already lost good people defending this outpost. We can't abandon the Ceruleans after what we've seen. They need us, and we need to stand by our principles." Captain Hayes took a deep breath, looking around at her crew. Each face reflected a mix of determination and apprehension. Finally, she made her decision. "We will intervene, but we must be strategic. Our first priority is to build a coalition, rally other civilizations affected by the Harkonnens. We can't fight this war alone." The decision set a flurry of activity in motion. The Ulysses began transmitting messages to nearby systems, seeking alliances and offering aid. The Ceruleans, meanwhile, worked on strengthening their defenses and preparing for the next phase of the conflict. Commander Isla, now fully recovered, took on the role of liaison between the Ceruleans and the humans. Her leadership and insights were invaluable, and she quickly earned the respect of the Ulysses crew. With their decision made, the Ulysses and the Cerulean forces braced for the inevitable Harkonnen retaliation. The Allied fleet patrolled the outskirts of the Cerulean system, ready to defend against any incursions. Morale was high, but the threat of another ambush loomed over them. The first sign of trouble came when the sensors detected a small fleet of Harkonnen ships approaching. Captain Hayes ordered the fleet to intercept, determined to prevent the Harkonnens from gaining a foothold. The Ulysses led the charge, its weapon systems primed and ready. The battle began with a furious exchange of fire. The Harkonnen ships, though smaller in number, were heavily armed and well coordinated. The Ulysses and Cerulean ships maneuvered with precision, their pilots skilled and their strategies sound. Lieutenant Reed directed the Ulysses' firepower, targeting key Harkonnen vessels and coordinating with the Cerulean fighters. The Allied forces fought as one, their newfound camaraderie evident in their seamless teamwork. Commander Isla piloted her ship alongside Reed, her movements a blur of calculated aggression. She targeted the Harkonnen ship's weak points, her knowledge of their tactics giving the Allies a crucial advantage. The Harkonnens, caught off guard by the resilience and coordination of their opponents, began to falter. Despite the Allies' efforts, the Harkonnens pressed on, determined to break through the defenses. One Harkonnen cruiser managed to breach the line, heading straight for the Cerulean outpost. Captain Hayes realized the critical nature of the situation and made a split-second decision. "All units, focus fire on that cruiser," she commanded, her voice ringing with authority. The Allied ships converged on the Harkonnen cruiser, unleashing a barrage of firepower. The cruiser returned fire, its weapons cutting through the Allied ranks. The Ulysses took a direct hit, causing the ship to shudder violently. Alarms blared, and the crew scrambled to contain the damage. Lieutenant Reed, his face set with determination, continued to direct the attack. "We can't let them reach the outpost. All ships, concentrate your fire on their engines." Under Reed's guidance, the Allied fleet intensified their assault, targeting the cruiser's propulsion systems. Explosions rippled through the Harkonnen ship as its engines were disabled. The cruiser, now adrift and vulnerable, was quickly overwhelmed by the combined firepower of the Allies. With the cruiser neutralized, the remaining Harkonnen ships began to retreat. The Allied forces pursued them, ensuring they could not regroup for another attack. The skirmish ended with a hard-won victory for the humans and Ceruleans. As the Ulysses and Cerulean ships returned to the outpost for repairs, a sense of cautious optimism spread through the ranks. They had faced the Harkonnens head-on and emerged victorious. But they knew this was just the beginning. The war was far from over, and greater challenges lay ahead. Captain Hayes, standing on the bridge of the Ulysses, looked out at the stars. "We did it," she said quietly, a mix of pride and resolve in her voice. "But this is just the first step. We need to prepare for the battles to come." Commander Ela joined her, a determined glint in her eye. "We will be ready. Together we can turn the tide of this war." The Allied forces, united by their shared victory, began to plan their next move. Knowing that the fate of their worlds depended on their continued cooperation and unwavering resolve. The victory in the skirmish provided the Allied forces with a much-needed boost in morale. However, they all knew that a decisive action was needed to ensure long-term security. Captain Hayes and Commander Ela convened a war council to discuss their next steps. Representatives from other civilizations that had joined the coalition attended, each bringing their unique perspectives and strengths to the table. The conference room aboard the Ulysses was filled with a mix of humans, Ceruleans, and other alien species. A holographic display showed the known positions of the Harkonnen fleets and their strongholds. Captain Hayes began the meeting, her voice steady and commanding. "We've dealt a significant blow to the Harkonnens, but we need to strike at their heart if we want to end this war," she said, pointing to a large, fortified position on the hologram. "This is Cerulean Prime, the Harkonnens' main stronghold. Taking it out will disrupt their entire operation." A murmur ran through the room as the representatives considered the audacious plan. Commander Ela stepped forward, her voice clear and confident. "The Harkonnens won't expect a direct assault on their most fortified position. If we can disable their main command center, their fleet will be thrown into disarray." Lieutenant Reed, who had been analyzing the Harkonnen defenses, chimed in. "We've identified key vulnerabilities in their defense grid. If we can infiltrate their command center and plant explosive charges, we can disable their systems long enough for our fleet to mount a full-scale assault." The plan was bold and dangerous, but it offered the best chance of ending the war quickly. The council members debated the details, refining the strategy until everyone was satisfied. The final plan called for a multi-pronged attack. A diversionary fleet would engage the Harkonnens' outer defenses, while a stealth team infiltrated the command center. Captain Hayes assigned Lieutenant Reed to lead the infiltration team, recognizing his expertise with alien technology and his proven courage under fire. Commander Ela would accompany him, her intimate knowledge of Harkonnen tactics crucial to the mission's success. The day of the assault arrived. The Allied fleet, consisting of human, Cerulean, and other coalition ships, gathered at the edge of the Harkonnen-controlled space. The tension was palpable as final preparations were made. Captain Hayes addressed the fleet from the bridge of the Ulysses, her voice broadcast to every ship. "Today we fight not just for ourselves, but for the freedom of all our worlds. We have one chance to strike a decisive blow. Stay strong, stay focused, and we will prevail." The fleet jumped into Harkonnen space, emerging in a coordinated formation. Immediately, they were met with a hail of enemy fire. The diversionary fleet engaged, drawing the Harkonnen defenders away from the main target. Explosions lit up the void as the two sides clashed, ships weaving and dodging in a deadly ballet. Amidst the chaos, the infiltration team, aboard a specially equipped stealth shuttle, slipped past the outer defenses. Reed piloted the shuttle with Ela by his side, navigating through the debris and energy blasts with precision. They approached the Harkonnen command center, a massive structure bristling with weaponry. Using the weaknesses identified in their earlier analysis, the team found a breach point and docked the shuttle. Reed, Ela, and a small squad of elite soldiers moved swiftly, making their way through the station's corridors. They encountered heavy resistance, but their training and determination saw them through. As they neared the command center's core, the intensity of the fighting increased. The Harkonnens, realizing the threat, threw everything they had at the infiltrators. Reed and Ela led the charge, their movements synchronized in perfect harmony. They fought with a ferocity born of necessity, each knowing the mission's importance. Finally, they reached the core. Reed began planting the explosive charges while Ela and the soldiers held off the Harkonnen reinforcements. The room shook with the sounds of battle, the air thick with the smell of scorched metal and ozone. With the charges set, Reed signaled the team to retreat. They fought their way back to the shuttle, detonating the explosives as they departed. The command center erupted in a series of massive explosions, crippling the Harkonnen defense grid. Back in space, the Allied fleet seized the opportunity. With the Harkonnen command center in ruins, their ships were disorganized and vulnerable. Captain Hayes ordered the final assault, and the fleet pressed the advantage. The battle raged on, but the tide had turned. One by one, the Harkonnen ships were destroyed or forced to retreat. The Allied forces, united in purpose and strength, achieved a hard-fought victory. The destruction of the command center sent shockwaves through the Harkonnen ranks, demoralizing their forces and breaking their will to fight. During a routine debriefing session aboard the Ulysses, Captain Hayes received a disturbing report. Lieutenant Reed had uncovered encrypted communications, indicating that a high-ranking member of the coalition might be a Harkonnen sympathizer. The implications were dire. Someone within their own ranks had been feeding intelligence to the enemy. Reed and Ela pored over the intercepted messages, their expressions growing darker with each revelation. "We need to act quickly," Reed said, his voice tense. "If the traitor remains unchecked, they could sabotage our efforts from within." Captain Hayes convened an emergency meeting with her senior officers and key Cerulean leaders. "We have a mole in our midst," she announced, the gravity of the situation evident in her tone. "We must identify and neutralize this threat before it's too late." Commander Ela, her eyes burning with determination, suggested a plan. "We need to set a trap, feed false information and see who takes the bait. It's risky, but it's our best shot at exposing the traitor." The coalition leaders agreed, and the plan was set in motion. They crafted a believable scenario involving a fake supply depot on a remote moon, leaking the information through secure channels that only a select few had access to. All eyes were on the communications, waiting to see who would contact the Harkonnens. It didn't take long. The traitor, thinking they were in the clear, sent a message to the Harkonnens detailing the supposed location of the supply depot. Reed traced the transmission back to its source, his heart sinking as he realized the identity of the mole, General Kethar, a respected Cerulean leader. Confronting Kethar was a delicate and dangerous task. Captain Hayes, Ela, and Reed approached him in his quarters, where he was caught off guard by their sudden appearance. "General Kethar," Hayes began, her voice steady but cold, "we have evidence that you've been communicating with the Harkonnens." Kethar's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed in defiance. "You don't understand," he hissed. "The Harkonnens promised to spare our worlds if I provided them with information. I did it to protect my people." "By betraying your allies," Ela retorted, her voice filled with anger. "You've endangered us all." Realizing there was no escape, Kethar lunged for a concealed weapon, but Reed was quicker. With a swift move, he disarmed the traitor and subdued him. Kethar was taken into custody, his betrayal a stark reminder of the dangers they faced from within. With Kethar's betrayal uncovered, the coalition moved swiftly to secure their ranks and prevent further espionage. The revelation, while shocking, also galvanized the Allies, reinforcing their resolve to stand together against the Harkonnen threat. The Allied fleet, now more vigilant than ever, began a series of strategic strikes against remaining Harkonnen outposts. Each victory brought new confidence and unity among the coalition members. The Harkonnens, reeling from their losses and internal chaos, struggled to mount an effective defense. In the midst of these efforts, intelligence reports indicated that a significant Harkonnen fleet was amassing near the Kantar Nebula, a region rich in resources and strategically vital. The coalition saw this as an opportunity to deliver a decisive blow to the enemy. Captain Hayes called for a war council to plan the attack. "This is our chance to cripple the Harkonnen war machine once and for all," she said, her eyes scanning the faces of the assembled leaders. "But we must be careful. The nebula's dense gas clouds will make navigation and communication difficult." Commander Ela proposed a bold strategy. "We'll use the nebula to our advantage. Our ships can hide within the gas clouds, launching surprise attacks on the Harkonnen fleet. It will require precise coordination, but I believe we can do it." The plan was risky, but the potential rewards outweighed the dangers. The coalition fleet set course for the Kantar Nebula, their ships cloaked by the swirling gases. As they approached, the tension on the bridge of the Ulysses was palpable. The initial phase of the battle went according to plan. The Allied ships struck from the shadows, catching the Harkonnens off guard. Explosions lit up the nebula as the Harkonnen vessels scrambled to respond. Despite the chaos, Captain Hayes and her officers maintained tight control, coordinating the strikes with precision. However, the Harkonnens soon adapted, using their superior numbers to flush out the hidden ships. The battle intensified, each side vying for control amidst the swirling gases. Lieutenant Reed and Ela, piloting their fighters through the nebula's maelstrom, executed daring maneuvers, their coordination a testament to the growing bond between their peoples. As the battle raged on, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elena Torres, monitoring the fleet's medical needs, discovered a pattern in the Harkonnens' movements. "They're following a predictable search pattern," she reported. "We can use this to set a trap." Captain Hayes seized the opportunity. "All units converge on these coordinates," she ordered, marking a point where the Harkonnen ships would be vulnerable. The Allied fleet regrouped and launched a concentrated attack, catching the Harkonnens in a deadly crossfire. The Harkonnen fleet, unable to withstand the coordinated assault, began to fall apart. Ship after ship was destroyed or forced to retreat. The Allied forces pressed their advantage, driving the remnants of the Harkonnen fleet out of the nebula. Captain Hayes and Commander Ela found themselves at the center of a growing movement. They held a summit aboard the Ulysses, the ship's largest conference room filled with leaders from across the galaxy. Each representative shared stories of Harkonnen atrocities and expressed a desire to join the coalition. "We must capitalize on this momentum," Captain Hayes addressed the assembly. "Our recent victories have shown that united, we can stand against the Harkonnens, but we need more than just military strength. We need coordination and shared resources." A Trillian ambassador, a tall figure with luminous skin, stepped forward. "The Trillians are ready to commit our fleets and resources. We have long suffered under Harkonnen tyranny, and now we see a chance for freedom." Others followed suit, pledging ships, soldiers, and supplies. The coalition's strength grew exponentially, transforming into a formidable alliance. Commander Ela worked closely with the new members, integrating their forces into the coalition's structure. Training exercises and strategic planning sessions became a daily routine, ensuring that everyone was prepared for the next phase of the war. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Reed and the Ulysses engineers collaborated with scientists from various civilizations to enhance their technology. They developed improved cloaking devices, advanced weaponry, and more efficient communication systems, ensuring that the coalition had a technological edge. The time had come for the coalition to launch its most ambitious operation yet, a massive offensive to liberate the remaining territories under Harkonnen control. The target was the Harkonnen capital, a heavily fortified planet that served as the nerve center for their operations. Capturing it would effectively end the Harkonnen reign of terror. The Allied fleet assembled in the shadow of a distant moon, finalizing their plans. Captain Hayes, Commander Ela, and Lieutenant Reed stood at the forefront, addressing the gathered forces via a holographic display. "This is our moment," Captain Hayes declared. "We've come together from across the galaxy, united by a common cause. Today, we strike at the heart of our enemy and reclaim our freedom. Stay strong, stay focused, and fight with everything you have." The fleet jumped into Harkonnen space, emerging just outside the capital's defense perimeter. The Harkonnens, alerted to their presence, scrambled to mount a defense. The sky above the Harkonnen capital filled with ships, lasers, and explosions as the battle commenced. The coalition's strategy involved a three-pronged assault. The main fleet would engage the Harkonnen defenders in space, while ground forces landed on the planet to disable key infrastructure. Meanwhile, a specialized team led by Lieutenant Reed and Commander Ela would infiltrate the central command complex to cut off the Harkonnen leadership. As the space battle raged, the Ulysses led the charge, its upgraded weapon systems proving devastatingly effective. The Allied ships moved with precision, their coordination honed through months of training and collaboration. Despite the Harkonnens' fierce resistance, the coalition pushed forward, gaining ground with each passing moment. On the surface, the ground forces faced intense opposition. Harkonnen soldiers, entrenched and well-armed, fought tenaciously to defend their home. But the coalition troops, driven by their shared purpose, advanced relentlessly. Commander Ela and Lieutenant Reed, having landed with the infiltration team, navigated through the chaos toward the command complex. Inside the complex, the fighting was brutal and close quarters. The Harkonnen guards, desperate to protect their leaders, put up a fierce defense. Reed and Ela led their team through the labyrinthine corridors, encountering heavy resistance at every turn. The sounds of battle echoed through the halls as they fought their way deeper into the complex. Finally, they reached the central command chamber. The Harkonnen leaders, realizing their situation was dire, attempted to flee, but Reed and Ela were determined to prevent their escape. A fierce firefight erupted, with both sides sustaining casualties. In the midst of the chaos, Reed managed to disable the command systems, severing the Harkonnen leadership's control over their forces. The remaining Harkonnen soldiers, now leaderless and disorganized, began to falter. As the command complex fell silent, the Allied ground forces secured their final objectives. The Harkonnen defenders, realizing their defeat, surrendered en masse. The coalition fleet, having gained control of the space around the planet, celebrated a hard-won victory. On the surface of the liberated planet, Captain Hayes, Commander Ela, and Lieutenant Reed stood amidst the ruins of the Harkonnen command complex. The Allied troops, weary but jubilant, began the task of securing the area and assisting the local population, who were cautiously emerging from hiding. Captain Hayes addressed the gathered soldiers and civilians, her voice carrying a mix of relief and pride. "Today, we have achieved the impossible. We have not only defeated a tyrannical force, but have also shown that unity and justice can prevail against the darkest of threats. This victory belongs to all of us." Commander Ela stepped forward, her gaze sweeping over the diverse crowd. "The Harkonnens sought to divide and conquer, but they underestimated our resolve. Together we have forged a bond that no enemy can break. Today marks the beginning of a new era of peace and cooperation." As the coalition forces worked to stabilize the region, humanitarian efforts commenced. Medical teams, including Dr. Elena Torres, provided aid to the wounded and sick, while engineers began repairing infrastructure and restoring essential services. The liberation of the Harkonnen capital had not only military significance, but also profound humanitarian impact. In the following days, Captain Hayes and her officers coordinated with newly freed leaders from across the galaxy to establish a provisional government. This governing body would oversee the transition from war to peace, ensuring that the Harkonnen Empire's collapse did not lead to chaos, but rather to a stable and prosperous future. With the war against the Harkonnens finally over, the galaxy entered a period of reconstruction and renewal. The Coalition, now an established and respected entity, took on the role of galactic peacekeepers, ensuring that the horrors inflicted by the Harkonnens would not be repeated. The Ulysses, having played a pivotal role in the conflict, returned to Earth for a hero's welcome. Captain Hayes, Lieutenant Reed, and the rest of the crew were celebrated as heroes, their bravery and leadership recognized by governments and civilians alike. Parades and ceremonies honored their contributions, but the crew remained focused on the broader mission of maintaining peace and stability. Commander Ela, appointed as the Cerulean ambassador to the Coalition, traveled to various worlds, promoting unity and cooperation. Her journey served as a reminder of the strength found in diversity and the importance of standing together against common threats. Ela's efforts were instrumental in solidifying the Coalition's influence and ensuring that the alliances formed during the war continued to thrive. In the aftermath of the conflict, the Coalition initiated numerous projects aimed at healing the wounds left by the war. Resources were allocated to rebuild devastated planets, restore ecosystems, and support displaced populations. Educational programs were established to promote understanding and cooperation among different species, fostering a culture of peace and mutual respect. Dr. Elena Torres spearheaded a coalition-wide medical initiative addressing the long-term health impacts of the war. Clinics and hospitals were built on previously occupied worlds, offering advanced medical care and training local professionals. Her work not only improved the quality of life for countless individuals, but also strengthened the bonds between former enemies. Technological advancements developed during the war were repurposed for peaceful applications. The cloaking technology, once a tool of war, was adapted for exploration and scientific research. The Coalition launched expeditions to uncharted regions of space, driven by a renewed spirit of discovery and collaboration. The Allied fleet continued to patrol the galaxy, but now their missions focused on humanitarian aid and disaster response. Their presence deterred potential aggressors and provided swift assistance to those in need. The fleet's actions reinforced the Coalition's commitment to protecting all civilizations and maintaining peace.